Hi everybody, John Cena here and welcome to Season 2, Episode 17 of FunkQuest. And this is the first episode of Round 2. So we have two returning Funksters to play today. And Ron, I want you to tell us who you are, where you're from.
Ron Chapman, Atlanta, Georgia, USA, and delighted to be back and glad to be a guinea pig for a new version.
A guinea pig, yes, that's good because there are some rule changes to tell you about, listener, so keep listening. I'll tell you what they are. And Alyson, tell us who you are, where you're from.
Alyson Lex, Baltimore, Maryland, also the USA, crazy cat lady, and stoked that I won round one. Excited to be here for round two.
Fantastic, because it's the quarterfinals next. So
Woo!
Last day. Woo! So Ron Funk past Kate Frank and Alyson Funk past Donny Bovine. And if you are a new listener to the show and wondering what on earth is going on, well, you'll kind of figure it out. If you're an existing listener, you do not need to go get a piece of paper and a pencil. You need to be kind of within arm's reach of a phone or some kind of device in about 10 or 12 minutes time, because you can vote for the winner and who you want to go through. So new rule is that you can pick any icon from the row. Any. You don't have to have the same one what the previous Funkster has had. So we're going to go ladies first. And Alyson, question one.
I'm going to find Nemo. Give me that clownfish.
Clownfish. When was the last time you stepped out of your comfort zone?
Just about every single day. So there's a quote that says, do something every day that scares you. And I really do work to do that. I force myself to take steps both in my life and my business and my relationships and everything that I'm not entirely comfortable with, but I know will ultimately benefit me in the long run. Having uncomfortable conversations with my husband, doing something, promoting my business that maybe makes me feel a little, learning something new that maybe I'm uncomfortable learning because I feel like my brain isn't ready for it. Everything, I really try to do one thing every day that scares me.
How does this manifest itself when you don't do something? Do you think, I need to go do something today?
It's almost become a little bit of a habit so far. I notice that if I go too long without doing new things, I start to feel restless and bored. That might have to do with my ADHD, but I notice that I'm not growing or progressing, or I'm just a little stagnant.
Good answer. And Ron, you get to pick anything from question one.
Well, as much as I love that question and what you did with that, Alyson, I'm going to try something different. Let's go with the dartboard and see what kinds of things we can puncture.
The dartboard.
Well, that was a nice pun there, Ron. I liked it.
Thanks.
What are most people interested in, but you can't stand?
Oh, man. So, all right, funny story here. At one point when I was back in the dating pool a few years back, and I had this dating service that was trying to find my perfect match, which was its own adventure. I got frustrated. I eventually called the owner of this outfit and said, look, can you find someone who wants something other than a bigger deck and a larger barbecue so they can eat hamburgers on Saturday nights? And she said, well, what do you mean? And I said, well, you just keep hooking me up with these people who just want to sit in the backyard and have what feels like an extraordinarily boring life, which I realize is a terribly judgmental thing to say, except I didn't aspire to that. So they had to eventually refund my money because they couldn't find anyone who was outside the box and would make me happy. It was a real surprise to me. I remain single to this day, Jonathan, so that tells you something, doesn't it?
If there's any dating app people that design dating apps listening, you need to put a box at the bottom that says, man, woman, shoe size, whatever, date of birth and all that. FunkyThinker tick. That would help, wouldn't it?
I'm right with you on that.
That would help. Question two. Ron, to go first.
Because I'm down south in Atlanta, Georgia, let's go with the stock cars. That should present something really interesting.
Yeah. How long is dropped food or sweets okay to eat? Drop it on the floor. How long is it okay to eat it?
So I guess it depends. It depends on who you ask, right? I mean, we were talking before the show. I do a lot of work in public health and the CDC, and it's an interesting time with COVID as we're recording this. And so, there's this idea that we need to get exposed to stuff. So you might as well leave it on the floor, pick it up a good while later and see what kind of useful things. Because, because I mean, we function on healthy immune systems, and immune systems are strengthened by exposure to stuff. Everything from, here's the funny story, if you want to keep your kids from having asthma, make sure that they get exposed to chicken poop and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, because it turns out that we co-evolved with creatures, and so getting stuff in our system, dirt and dust and all that, is really, really valuable. Unfortunately, we've sort of like overprotected ourselves, so we're ever more exposed. So I would say leave it there for a good while and go for it.
Yeah, just go get your knife and fork and eat your dinner off the floor. Is Ron's kind of advice. Sounds all right to me. Yeah.
What doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right?
Yeah. Alyson, question 2.
So I am excited about my vegetable garden this year. So I'm going to go with the vegetable harvest.
Veg basket. Who was the last person to give you advice?
Yesterday, I was talking to my biz bestie. So I think everybody should have a business bestie if you're an entrepreneur, or a career bestie if you're work 9 to 5. Basically somebody that you can confide in about your business or your career. And if it's a career, they shouldn't work at the same place as you, but who can help give you advice and help just keep you going in that upward trajectory, and somebody that, so you're not always bombarding your spouse or your significant other or your best friend or your parent with work and business. And so my biz bestie was the one to give me some advice actually about stepping out of my comfort zone and promoting my business.
And we have to switch off. So we've got to find some mechanism of dumping stuff at the dog. Just the same as there's nowhere else to go. If you work at home or you work at home office, there's nowhere else to go. So that's a good answer. Question 3, Alyson to go first.
I really like that tarantula. He's cool looking.
The spider.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's cool looking. I like spiders.
I like spiders.
I do. They're so useful.
What time of day is your favorite?
I have gotten on this crazy weird sleep schedule where I fall asleep too late and get up way too early, but I'm getting up at about 4:30 in the morning. And as Ron mentioned earlier, we're recording this during the life and the times of COVID. And that is the only time my house is quiet. So between about 4:30 and 6 o'clock, my house is quiet. It's just me and my cats. And I can sit and catch up on a TV show, or I can read a book, or I can just sip a cup of coffee and not do anything. And I really love those times of day when I can be quiet and have just focused me time to just do what I need to do for my mental health and my self-care, and just take a few moments to be Alyson instead of mom or entrepreneur or wife.
We noticed the other day, actually, we live less than a mile from the main London to Leeds motorway, and it's normally quite drumming with traffic. And we noticed the other day how quiet it was. And they reckon traffic levels have gone back to 1955. I don't know how they've worked that out, but quiet. Quiet.
And nature is taking the world back a little bit. Animals are coming onto the streets, and yeah, it's very quiet. It's wonderful.
It's very nice, yeah.
Stressful, but wonderful.
Yeah, yeah. Question 3, Ron.
Sure. So let's see. Let's go with the board game and see where that takes us.
Yeah. What thing is uniquely yours?
So, all right. I'm actually going to point over my shoulder here. I was wondering if this would come into play. You can see a sculpture right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's this guy who does these really, really cool sculptures. He customizes them based on what you ask for. And so those are a bunch of ceramic pieces. And some time ago, I fell in love with, actually what happened at 54 years old, I found out I'm a good sculptor and didn't know it. So I fell in love with sculpture and started collecting a few pieces. And I found this guy out in Santa Fe. And you tell him kind of what you're looking for and how many strands, that's welding wire that goes up, and what color themes you want, and then he sends you photos and you pick stuff out, and then you basically customize this sculpture tree. And I sit here every morning at 4 a.m. like you, Alyson. This is a little meditation space. I said, and that's sort of a source of inspiration for me. I don't know why, some archetypal thing. So that piece is unique to my space, designed just for what I wanted, and it's kind of like an altar for me in the mornings at 4 a.m.
Well, send us a photograph and we'll put it in the show notes.
Oh, perfect. I will do that right after we're done.
Yeah. I forgot. It's question 4, and it's, I think, Ron to go first.
Okay. All right. We were talking about the Legos earlier, but I can't resist the dude on the mule.
What famous painting would you like on your wall?
So I'm going to have to send you another photo because I already have one on my wall. I was lucky enough to know a guy, Charles Fall, who was called the greatest American, one of the greatest American realists. He painted a piece called Bird Lady, which is just extraordinary. I'll send you a copy of the of that too. Partially naked woman wrapped in an Indonesian silk scarf with a small bird perched on her finger. And it just captivates me. I was so lucky to know the guy and to find a way to buy one of his pieces and to get to know him and talk about it and what it represents. And so every now and then you get lucky, right? And you get something that you just adore. So Bird Lady, it's a cool deal that sits right above my dining room table.
Bird Lady. Good answer. I was just going to say that I don't know anything about painting, so I'd just pass on that question. Johannes Vermeer would be my answer. The girl with the pearl earring. Look at that. I think I cannot do that.
Good answer.
Alyson, question 4.
Well, we were talking about the Lego, but is that an English breakfast there in column 2?
Yes, filling for sausage, bacon, egg, tomatoes.
I think I'm hungry, so I'm going to go with the English breakfast.
When is it skill and not luck?
Oh, I think when you reach expert level, it takes skill and not talent or luck. So anybody can have luck or talent at something, but it does take practice to create skill. And so when you become an expert level anything, whether it's copywriter like me or a pro athlete, when you become an expert, it does take practice, skill, determination, education, all of those things.
That's a good answer. What we are now, question 5. Ron. No, Alyson to go first, is it?
I get the odd ones. That little pig's adorable. Let's go with the little baby pig.
Where did you first drink alcohol?
Well, the real question is my mom going to watch this?
Well, we won't tell her, so you can...
High school, we used to go to a friend's house and we would raid his mom's liquor cabinet and replace her vodka with water. So after a couple months, we were just drinking very watered down vodka, and that was the first time I drank alcohol.
So hang on, so there's a bottle of vodka and you kind of have a little snifter and then top it back up to water with the same
By a little snifter, you mean we'd make some really bad mixed drinks with Kool-Aid and vodka and then just fill it up to where we thought it might have been because she didn't pay attention to the liquor cabinet.
Right. Yeah, is that what you did?
It is. And I haven't had a drink in about 2.5 years, so I am very happily alcohol-free. It was just a personal decision I made. I do miss margaritas now and then, though.
Yeah. Ron, question 5.
Sure. Well, quick shout out though, Alyson. I liked your skill versus luck answer, and I relate to the not drinking. I got 34 years without.
Congratulations.
Well done. Yeah.
It's a pretty cool deal. So I love that indigenous face on the left-hand side. So let's see where that takes us.
Question 5. Where do you like to sit on public transport?
I don't sit. I stand.
Stand up.
I stand. I don't. Maybe it's because in the first case, so often it's like you have to wedge yourself in or whatever. Yeah. And I don't seem to confine very well.
Is this like bus, train, anything, airplane, or anything?
If I can stand, I even spend, especially if it's longer flights, I spend a fair amount of time up on my feet. Some of that is because of a blood clot some years ago on a very long flight from Johannesburg to the U.S. And so I'm particularly mindful that sitting is not particularly good for me and maybe not good for any of us. But I spend a lot of time standing. I seem to be able to move a little more freely. And so if I'm forced to sit, I usually want to be on an aisle where I can stretch out a little bit just for comfort and so forth.
Are standing on airplanes when you fly in the air standing? Is that allowed?
Well, you got to sit at the right times, of course. But if you make friends with the flight crew, they will be happy to let you stand in the open areas at the back of the plane or in the midsection and chat with them. So I'm happy to do that. It's a nice break, particularly on a long flight.
It's a good answer. Right, so who won? Remember, we're looking for insights, thoughts, ideas, suggestions that we didn't know before that we do know now, for the purposes of investing just 10 or 12 minutes or however long this is taken. So what we do to vote now is it's a Twitter poll. So if you look below this show notes, there will be a link to a tweet. Go there. You can either vote for Ron or Alyson. Basically, the one that gets the most votes goes through to the quarterfinals. Simple.
Yay.
Ron, how can we find out more about you and contact you?
Sure. Website, www.seeingtrue.com. That's SEEINGTRUE. That's where a lot of my transformational material is. It's all free because I just make stuff up and put it out in the world. So check it out.
Make stuff up. Love it. Alyson, how do we contact you?
You know what? I say that all the time. I say, oh yeah, I make stuff up. My home on the web is AlysonLex.com, and that's ALYSONLEX.com, because my mom had to be different 30 some odd years ago. And from there you can find me on social or check out my blog where I make stuff up. Apparently that's what we do.
So we all do. It's been making stuff up. So remember, we've just made stuff up for the last, I don't know how long, quarter of an hour, and one of these folks is going through to the quarterfinals, and you can decide who. Alyson and Ron, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jonathan. Thanks, Alyson. That was fun.
That was super
We'll
fun.
speak soon.
Talk to you soon.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Hi, thanks so much for making it to the end of this episode. If you've enjoyed it, please share it with your friends. I have a few people you might want to share it with. Your partner, your parents, your grandma and granddad, your neighbours, your hairdresser, your tea lady, your gym instructor, your swimming coach, postman, the bin man, your cat, your dog, Father Christmas, Mr. Trump, Mr. Putin, Cristiano Ronaldo.